Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Go check out my website at skysworld.com for life coaching and mentoring. It's bright and early, daily discipline, mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through. Let's just philosophize this morning, Saturday morning. Let's talk about who are you? Everybody has a narrative, a little story, a little life story. If I were to ask you, who are you? Nice to meet you. Who are you? Introduce yourself, please. That's a conversation that I have rather frequently when I'm on a coaching call with a new customer, new client. I should call them friends, really. I hate the word client because it has such a cold sound to the relationship, because the people I coach, we end up friends. But you may tell me who you are rather briefly. Take 5 minutes, tell me who you are. You could do this as an exercise, write it down. Go get a pen and paper and write down who you are. You're in a conversation with somebody. You can be in a conversation with me if you like. And you would just ask that question, who are you? It's interesting to read back. It's interesting to hear yourself talk. You can even videotape yourself and watch yourself talking about this. A lot of us have a very narrow view of ourselves. And we tell the world this very narrow, specific story of who we think we are. And that story may be wrapped around a persona that you have landed on for yourself, but obviously you're an individual, and when you just say I'm a persona, it makes you kind of generic and hollow. But the specific aspects of yourself that you present to the world as you. This is who I am. This is Sky. Take me or leave me. This is who I am. It's always a limited bit of information. You can't tell people who you are completely. It would take forever. And people aren't really articulate enough to express that. Most people aren't. But who are you? You have to think about it. Look at what you wrote down, or think about what your typical answer is to that question. I had to start paying attention to this because I realized that I was limiting myself through my narrow focus. This narrow-minded view of who I was, this narrative that I was telling the world and telling others and telling myself and believing it, limited me. And I didn't feel like it was entirely accurate. As I became stronger and as I healed from past trauma, as I learned to take more personal responsibility for my life and for the things that, in quotes, happened to me. Notice how we say that things happen to me as if we have no active role in that experience. We just like to play the victim. But as you learn to take personal responsibility, you move forward from the victimized mindset. You stop blaming the world and others for the things that happened to you, and you take responsibility for them. You realize I had an active role in that, even if it was just simply creating the conditions. I didn't ask to be stabbed, but I didn't have to be out at 3 in the morning. I didn't have to be in that scenario. I didn't have to be around those people. I could have been at church. Life's about choice. I chose what I chose, and I got the consequences. We often don't tell our story that way, at least to ourselves. Sure, you can't go around telling every single person this long-winded autobiography. You have to keep it short and sweet. A lot of people settle on a persona that they feel is presentable to the world as best as they can do. Putting on your good clothes to go out to dinner. This is the personality that you put on when you meet people. And that personality, you may start to believe that. That's who you think you are. You see actors getting lost in their role. You may be getting lost in a role. I got lost in a role of being a gangster. When my father got murdered in 1991, I had a nervous breakdown, and I realized this flash, this thought. I realized, wow, I've forgotten who I was. I'm not the same person that I used to be. I let the world change me. Maybe I changed myself. I've been overly focused on this certain narrative, and I went down that rabbit hole way too far. And I got so far away from who I used to be, I realized I lost who I was. I'm no longer the person I was. I'm a shallow shell of a man. I realized this after my father was murdered. I went back east. My brother had a house right outside of DC. He was just living his regular life. I was involved in all kinds of crazy stuff, and he was just involved in his regular life, regular routine, working out, going to his job, involved in his relationship. He knew some of the same people that we had grown up with, the same friends. I'd lost touch with everyone, even myself. And he was nice enough to let me come stay with him. I was homeless and broke. I didn't have any money to pitch in on bills. I didn't even have a towel. I remember using his towel. He bought me a towel for like the first night that I stayed there, the second night, and was like, stop using my fucking towel. Here's your own towel. I didn't have anything. I was bum. And the point of that reconnection was to not just re-spark a relationship that I was foolish enough to let go, but to reconnect with who I was, who I am. There was a larger story there that I had forgot. And I needed to remember it. I needed to remember who I was so I could embrace more aspects of self, more dimensions to myself. Because I had become rather one-sided. And it's important to be able to go through this exercise, to remember. The word remember is remember, to rebuild, put back together. Remember all those missing pieces, put them all back together so you can have a complete narrative of who you are in your own head. This will expand your vision, your goals, your destiny. You want to open up the doors in your life that are blocking your path. Give yourself true freedom, a freedom that you never ever experienced before. Try to remember who you really are. Forget about this version that you've been telling the world of your little cherry-picked traumas and experiences that you think that's what you are. You're so much more than just the bullshit that you went through, the stuff you're so focused on, this persona that you think you landed on, this mask that you wear. You're the totality of everything that you've been through, not just the season, not just a day, not just a couple experiences. So you want to start looking at yourself in a larger perspective. Take a step out of yourself, way out. Because you may be too close where all you're just seeing is a certain side of it. You sit too close to the movie screen, if you're at the movie theater, and you can only see a certain portion of it. You want to sit back far enough where you can see the whole screen without having to look like that. And you've been limiting yourself, limiting your success, limiting your interactions, limiting how the universe will send you blessings through this narrow focus of who you think you are. And this is a source of suffering. This is why I'm talking about this. This who we think we are is an incredible source of suffering for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there, maybe none of you, maybe you guys are all perfect, but there's a lot of people out there who are deeply upset with who they are, and they go around telling the world this little narrow, focused view of who they think they are. You need to expand your view. I know what this is like, to feel frustrated that nobody understands me, nobody really knows me, when all I'm doing is giving the world this little tiny sliver of who I am. Give the world who you really are. But you have to reconnect with it. Food for thought.